Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 8th episode of the Parabellum Defense Podcast.
Welcome back. Hopefully this one's as good as any of the other ones.
And Happy New Year to everybody who celebrates that sort of thing.
Don't drink and drive.
Don't fire your gun in the air.
Don't be dumb.
Be intelligent. Start the new year on a good foot.
I like it. Just don't be dumb. Come on.
You say that a lot.
Yeah, because people are dumb. Like, I don't know how else to say it, man. The more I deal with people, the more I realize how it's just beyond me how dumb people can be, and like how most grown adults cannot follow basic instructions, like 5th grade level stuff,
Yeah. What's really funny is when I've done work at Walmart stocking shelves and you find things that people couldn't figure out where it goes. And it's like, they grab a thing of markers off the wall and then suddenly they're just like,
find the exact same marker.
and it's like, I guess I'll put it right here. And it's like, what are you doing? The makeup aisle is the worst thing ever.
Okay.
Holy crap. Those ladies don't have a clue what's going on. They pull everything off the shelf, go brain dead, and sit it on the floor and walk away. And anytime I would go in there and I would see the mess, I'd just think to myself, your bathroom must look like a war zone. It must look like the bathroom in Howl's Moving Castle. I do not envy your husband or your boyfriend or anybody who lives with you.
I'm definitely glad I'm not married to a woman who likes nail polish and makeup and all that kind of stuff. Not to mention how expensive that stuff is.
Yeah, I had considered getting into makeup at one point, and I realized that starting off, just buying everything I would need, and then, you keep renewing it, but you got to start somewhere, because if you just wear eyeshadow, you're going to look dumb. If you just wear mascara, you're going to look dumb. You can't buy it little by little. You got to buy everything, because your whole face has to match. And then, it's like, oh, I ran out of this. I'll buy some more of this. Oh, I need to lighten this. I need to buy more. And I realized that, the beginning cost was going to be $200. And I remember I was married to my ex at the time, and there was a little .22 handgun I wanted, and I said, I'd rather have the handgun.
I mean, I can see every once in a while, you get dolled up for a night out on the town or something, but it's every day the cake mask of makeup that women put on is, you can clearly see the line.
Well, if a woman is good at makeup, you can't really tell.
Well, that's probably so few and far between.
Yeah, so being good at makeup is like being good at concealed carry. You can't tell. And then one day you see her without her makeup on, and you're just, whoa, what happened to you? But I know I would not be good at makeup. And the way I figured, if somebody sees me after I put on makeup and they think I look atrocious, as they probably would, that's on me, that's my fault. But if somebody sees this right now and they're like, oh, she's ugly, they gotta take it out with God. And also, they can't say anything, because that would be rude. But if I did makeup and I look like I'm a squaw out on the warpath or something, as I've seen many women do, their makeup is all these bright colors and stuff. It's you go into battle, and it's well, I'm gonna get picked on, and I kind of deserve it, because I looked in the mirror and thought, that's a flex. That's a look right there.
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway, while we're talking on the subject of women, you heard about the domestic violence registry that just got opened this year in Tennessee.
Yeah, vaguely, I guess, yeah.
So, according to the Tennessean, a new law is set to go into effect January 1st, so tomorrow, that will create the nation's first registry to track repeat domestic violence offenders. Signed by Government Bill Lee in May, Savannah's law named for Robert County Deputy Savannah Puckett, 22, who was shot and killed by her ex-boyfriend, James Jackson Kahn, on January 23, 2022. Puckett's body was found inside her burning home in Springfield after she failed to show up for work. Kahn, who had a history of domestic violence and stalking, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and is serving a life sentence. Authorities said he also suffocated her dog before setting her home on fire. Under the law, a precedent domestic violence offender, defined as someone with more than one domestic violence offense, will be required to register in a public database maintained by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. The registry will contain offender information including the name, date of birth, conviction date, counties of conviction, and a photo of the offender. The offender must have been convicted or pleaded guilty or no contest to a domestic violence charge with at least one prior domestic violence conviction. The law is not retroactive, meaning someone with past multiple domestic violence offenses will not be required to register unless they get another domestic violence conviction on or after January 1st. The domestic violence-related offenses include assault, sexual assault, stalking, and murder. And as to I think it's interesting they put murder on there because it's like, well, shouldn't that person already be in jail?
Yeah, right.
Anyway. An estimated 4,500 people are convicted of domestic assault offenses each year in Tennessee, according to the Administrative Office of the Courts. Authority estimated about 40% of convictions were for a second or subsequent offense. Offenders can remove identifying information from the registry in the following cases: 5 years after the date of the most recent domestic violence conviction if the offender has had one domestic violence prior conviction; 7 years after the date of the most recent conviction if the defendant has 2 prior convictions; 10 years after the date of the most recent conviction if the defendant has 3 prior convictions; and 20 years of the offender. I think I was supposed to be if the offender, Tennessean. And 20 years if the offender has more than 4. Do you think it will actually be helpful?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
Not one bit.
Okay, why not?
Well, first off, how many people my first thought with the registry is it's essentially just someone's background check on a list. And it's like, if you're that concerned about, if a woman, let's face it, it's mostly going to be men because men commit a lot of domestic violence. So I'm just going to say for the sake of it, that if a woman is interested in dating a guy and she wants to go, oh, what kind of guy am I dating? It's very easy to do background checks on people nowadays. I mean, it's very easy to do internet searches and stuff like that. It's very easy to find criminal records for pretty much anybody. So if you're really interested, that information is already public record. It's already out there to see. So having another list is like, well, if they want to do a background check, they can. And it's the same thing with like the predator list. It's out there, but most people never even look at it. Like most people are not researching the child predator list. There's apps now that can show you where the people are and stuff. And there may very well be people out there that do check it. But I'm still going to say most people are not checking these lists. So it's just going to be another list that we're going to be paying somebody else to now keep track of this list that most people aren't even going to look at. And if they want to do a background check on them, they can. You can get paid background checks. You can get free background checks. I can go to the clerk of the court or the sheriff's office website and look at inmates present and past. I can see what people have been arrested for. So if they really are that concerned and want to know, then they can already find that information. So it's just another list that I feel is really not going to be used in the first place. I mean, and if you're that concerned, why would you continue dating them in the first place?
I mean, I think the whole thing is I think the idea probably is that if she had known about her boyfriend's past, she might not have dated him. Unless she's I can fix him sort of guy, or girl.
And that was going to be one of my next conversations is, I don't believe that whatsoever. Like, okay, we're going to create a domestic violence list. It's like, well, first off, Why do people, besides shitty ass people, and let's just stick with men, women commit domestic violence too, but why do they commit domestic violence? Well, because they're pieces of crap. Well, why do people, especially if you look at people who have been convicted of domestic violence more than once, most of the time, it's on the same person. They commit domestic violence, they get arrested, they go to jail, they get charged, and then they get released. She takes him back, and it happens again and again and again until she's dead. So, I'm going to comment stuff on Florida because that's where I was. Like, Florida has a mandatory arrest for domestic violence. If we go to a domestic disturbance and somebody claims physical contact, we're required to make an arrest, even if said victim doesn't want to pursue charges. Florida says we're required to make an arrest. Because what has happened over the years is we go out for a domestic disturbance, we find out he hit her or she hit him, blah, blah, blah. She's like, he or she's like, I don't want to press charges. And we're like, okay, we leave. And then 2 hours later we come back because one of them stabbed the other one. So Florida pretty much said, we're not going to play that game anymore. If you call law enforcement on a domestic disturbance, we're not their babysitter. We're not here to kick them out of the house. A woman will call and say, oh, my husband's drunk and I just want him out of the house. And it's like, well, we can't kick him out of the house. This is his house. He lives here. We can't just kick him out. So anyway, state of Florida says, if you're going to call for a domestic disturbance and you claim physical violence during that process, somebody's going to go to jail. And the thing with Florida is physical violence, or not even physical, it's violence. So domestic assault or domestic battery. Florida has two clearly defined definitions for that. It's assault, which is the threat to do harm, and battery is the actual intentional touching. So I go out to the house. She calls, says he's drunk. She wants me to leave. And I'm like, well, I can't make him leave. I can try and be like, hey, maybe it'd be in your best interest to leave. Or sometimes I'm like, I can't make him leave. He's drunk in his own house. I can't make him leave. If you're not comfortable here, you're going to have to leave. Unfortunately, that's the law. I can't just kick him out because he's drunk. And during that process, let's say she says something like, well, I was standing in the hallway and we were yelling at each other and he pushed me up against the wall. Well, according to Florida, battery is the unlawful and unwanted touching. Therefore, he just committed domestic battery. It was the unlawful and unwanted touching. So now we have to arrest him for domestic battery. So according to that registry, and I've done some very, very, how do I want to say it? Loose domestic charges. Because on one hand, it's like, but on the other hand, according to Florida state statute, he committed a crime or she committed a crime. So now, even though she goes, well, I don't want him to go to jail. He just pushed me up against the wall. I really don't want him to go to jail. It's like, well, Florida says we have to make the arrest. You can go to court and you can talk to them from there and maybe you can drop the charges or whatever. But what did that thing say? Any type of battery or assault or anything like that is going to be put on the registry. So it's like, first off, we're talking about how often somebody's committing domestic violence. The repeat offenders repeating offense on the same person because he gets arrested, they come back, he beats her again, or she beats him again. But then we're talking about loose charges. Like, I've seen people get charged for domestic abuse for some very, loose stuff. I mean, the unlawful and unwanted touching. If I touch you, that's a battery. And if it's in a domestic relationship, now it's domestic battery. And because you're pissed off at me, you're going to pursue charges, and I'm going to be charged with domestic battery. I've seen times where, we go into the whole rape stuff, and that's a whole different issue, but I've seen times where women and men, I'm sure there's documented times with women, or men as well, that will just make these accusations. I mean, we've seen men sitting in prison for rape allegations for it to come back later down the road that it was a big fat lie. 5 women or whatever accused this, the college girls that accused the one guy of rape and they all had, and then it turned out it was, I've literally arrested people for domestic violence where weeks later, when it goes to court, she's like, well, he didn't really touch me, but the cops said that they wouldn't take him out of the house. So I just said he hit me because that means he would get arrested. So therefore he's out of the house. So now we're going to create a registry for that. So who's going to determine, like, if the registry is just domestic violence, you know, we've talked about it before with the pedophiles and the registries and stuff for pedophiles. And it's like, well, the 21-year-old guy who went to a 21 and up bar, met a girl that night, took her home, had sex with her because he was in a 21 and up bar, and then 2 weeks later he's getting arrested for statutory rape because she ended up being 16. She just had a fake ID. Florida has a law that states misrepresentation of age is an illegal defense, but now he's on the predator list for the rest of his life. He's not a predator. He's not actively seeking a 16-year-old, but now he's labeled as a predator and on the list for the rest of his life. And that's going to prevent him down the road from, you know, a lot of things. So now we're like, are we drawing lines with the domestic violence stuff, or are we not drawing lines? And anybody and everybody who's been accused of them or convicted of a domestic violence assault or battery or whatever they're stating there is going to be on this list when there's some things that's like, well, he hit me, but... So, I don't know, I got so many, if you can't tell, I got so many things flowing through my head about this right now, and I really don't know how to categorize it. And
well, one thing is, though, you're looking at it from a Florida perspective, and that makes sense because you've never practiced law enforcement in Tennessee.
Right.
So you don't know what the laws are and everything like.
Tennessee does have, as far as I've been told by other cops, Tennessee does have the mandatory arrest if somebody claims physical violence.
Okay. Now, see, you and it seems like you have very different mindsets, though, because you're going, oh, and then there's women, they're making false accusations. And I'm thinking of all the women I've known who've always taken men back, and I'm thinking of, like, them going, well, I'm going to not call the cops because I don't want to put him on this registry and ruin his life.
Yeah.
And so making women less likely to contact for help. So,
that's 100% true too, yeah.
You know, and that is a legit concern because I've seen, you know, like I personally have known women that's like, you're going to get killed. You are like that person who's keeping a large wild animal in their house and going, well, you know, I feed it vegan, so you know,
right.
It's like, no, you have a lion in your house or, you know, something like that. It's like, you're going to get killed. And, you know, I've seen that. And I have also personally known kids who have had, adults be inappropriate with them and had other adults who guilt trip them into not saying anything like, oh, then Uncle so-and-so will go to jail and it will ruin his life and it'll be your fault because you said something. And it's like, I'm going, well, will that be put on women? Like, oh, if you said something and it ruined your man's life, now your man is put in jail and now he's seen, you know, or, you know, my brother who's dating you is now his life is ruined because he got drunk and you got drunk and you guys got into an altercation and you had to call 911 and now he's on this registry. And so that to me is a concern.
Yeah, kids that are just not report anymore because they don't want to put them on it. Yeah. And the thing with the registry is like I think about, and I don't remember, but we were talking about something before where it's like, I don't know if I feel different about the pedophile list, but I think about this list and I go, well, once they serve their time, all right, let's not even say it was one of those where, oh, I want to take him back, or it was a BS charge where it was like, no, he straight cold cocked her in the face and went to jail, right? Straight domestic battery, or in Tennessee it's assault because it's all lumped into one thing. Straight domestic assault, punched her in the face and knocked her out or whatever. And so he goes to jail for domestic, let's just say it was a simple assault because he didn't do any significant damage or anything. And that could land him in jail for up to a year. So let's just say he gets the maximum penalty, does 1129 for punching his girlfriend or his wife in the face. Maybe that might be severe, but let's just say he does 1129. Well, then he's out. He's served his time, right? But now we're going to punish him for the rest of his life by having him on a domestic violence registry? I know it said more than one, right? But, okay. But, if they serve their time and it's like, we talk about all this country does is talk about rehabilitation and stuff like that. And it's like, well, you're just putting them on a list that's probably going to prevent him or her from getting jobs or other things like that. I get their mindset was, let's protect people from abusive spouses. And, again, I'm trying to stay away from men versus women. Let's protect people from abusive spouses by putting this registry out there so everybody can see it. But to your point, well, reporting is going to plummet. But
we don't know that for sure. It's a possibility.
Well, that's why rape is such an underreported thing too. It's the guilt, it's reliving the thing. They don't want to go to court and all that. Rape is considered the most underreported crime in the nation because of all those things that you mentioned. And while this very well could end up happening, I don't want to put them on the registry. And the thing is, that goes back to what I had said is they keep bringing them back, and I'm going to say him or her. Most domestic situations are always between the same two people. I got to the point where I would go out to these same people all the time. And you're like knocking on the door, rolling your eyes, trying to keep your professionalism, but you're like, great, we're back out at this house again. And, to your point about, I know women that's going to end up getting killed because they keep bringing them back or something. It's like, yeah, it's the same people. And is it just the dynamic? They're just not good for each other, or is it that person that is just a bad person?
Well, I really doubt that there's any person out there, man or woman, who in this situation is abusive and then somebody else is not abusive. I just don't think people have that effect. Either you're an abusive spouse or you're not.
People bring out the worst of people, but yeah, for the most part, if you're a wife beater, you're a wife beater. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think of the registry from a woman's perspective, and I think to myself, well, if this registry existed when I was on the dating scene, I would have looked you up, and if I had saw evidence that a woman who you were with before had you arrested because you had slammed her forehead on a countertop, like that happened to a woman who I know, or something like that, it's like, well, that'd be a deal breaker. And you'd be like, well, that was then. I was 20 or, I was drunk. It's like, well, I don't care.
Yeah, you have that in you. So, yeah, and I get that, and I agree, but I'll just go back to my original statement is you can already look that up right now without a registry, without, again, having to pay someone else now or a whole entire division of people that are not going to be keeping record of this. Anybody at any time can go look this stuff up, so we're dating and you're like, I just want to look at this guy's background, see what he's over. A simple Google search can give you a lot.
I don't know. I Googled a lot of people's names and found a lot of nothing.
But, again, there's paid services and stuff like that, and I get this is a free service, but for the most part, that information is already out there. It's already public record, and I just go back to most people. I think there will be women out there, or even men out there, that will decide to go look on it and see if the person's name is on the list. But I think for the most part, most people aren't going to use it. I really don't think.
Do you think one of the issues is that people aren't really taught how to do background checks on people?
I think the issue is most people just don't care. You go back to, I'll go back to what you said earlier. It's like, I'm going to fix it. Mm-hmm. Especially women have that mentality. I'm going to fix them. And it's like, first off, we can't even have situational awareness when crossing the street. Most people, especially in the dating world nowadays, especially with this younger generation where we have this one night stand mentality and I'm a strong independent person and abortions and all this kind of stuff is like where the family dynamic is leaving, the relationship dynamic is leaving, and it's like they're not staying with each other long enough now anyways for them to care. And I go back to that whole myth of women like the bad boys anyway. So it's like, ooh, I want me a bad boy. Let me go to the list and find me a bad boy because I'm going to try to fix it.
I doubt
you know,
it's going to do that.
You know, like, come on. But
I can imagine her meeting a guy, he's cute, he's charismatic, and he's on there, and she knows it, and being like, but it'll be different with me because XYZ. Yeah. But I don't think there's any woman out there who's like, well, let's see, what you guys got in the back here?
Yeah, but I mean, and you might, you're right, she'll see it and go, oh, it's not going to be, I'm going to fix him, or it's just going to be, I go back to, I don't think it's going to be used that much because, well, like I said, we're getting away from the relationship thing, especially when women want to be strong and independent women, and the feminist movement has really killed the relationship scene, and I'm going to go have one night stands and not care, and I'll have a boyfriend because I don't have to worry about it. And so they're like, we're going to create this registry, and most people aren't going to use it because, especially women, because they're not looking for relationships, and they're just out here farting around and doing what they want to do. And like, you know, I've talked to women who barely knew the dude's name before they were having sex, you know. It's like, so I doubt she's taking the time to look him up on the registry.
They settle down and they want a relationship eventually.
Eventually, yeah, sure.
Eventually.
I'm sure there will be, and again, I don't think that nobody's going to use it. I think it's just going to, you know, I'd really like to almost want to survey and ask how many people have actually used or even at least once glanced at the predator list, you know. And I'm curious now how many people have actually seen it, because in my experience, I've talked to a lot of people as a cop for a long time. It's like most people never look at it. Yeah, I guess I wonder though, like, you know, again, how many people are looking at the predator list? Like, let's just say women, or I'll just say people, man or woman. You're like, okay, I've been dating this person for a while and I want to get serious. Let me go and just check to see if this person's on the predator list. How many people are actually doing that? I want to venture to say very, very little. I want to say probably even less than 10% of people in our society go, okay, I'm getting into this serious relationship with this person, male or female, and let me go check the predator list to make sure they're not harm. So then I go back to, are they going to do the same thing with this domestic violence list? Okay, they don't care if they're just having one night stand, but they go, okay, finally I'm in a serious relationship with this person. Let me check and make sure they're not on the list. I want to venture to say it's going to be very, very little people that are doing that.
I mean, I use the predator list if I move, you know, because I check the area. So I don't want to move somewhere that has predators in it, you know. I'm not going to move next door to a pedophile.
I want to know how many people do that, you know, how many people actually do that. When
I was in my first relationship, we were going to move to a home in Hendersonville, and he gave me the address. I looked it up, and I found that like the closest pedophile was like, registered pedophile was like 10 miles away. And I was like, okay, fine, that's all right. You know, well, that's not all right, but that's permittable. I'll go with that. So we moved to that location. Later, we moved to Chattanooga. Same thing. He found a house, and he was like, what do you think of this one? I looked it up on the registry. And to me, that was like one of the most important things. It was like the number one thing. It's like, how close is the furthest pedophile from where I'm taking our kids? So I looked it up, and I remember being like, no. Why? Well, because there's 2 registered sex offenders on this road. So I don't want to live on this road. Find somewhere else. And, so I ended up picking the house that we moved to, and I based it off of that. That was like, that was why. We moved there, and, so we ended up getting divorced, as you know, and he buys a house in Chattanooga and he's taking the kids there every weekend. I look up the house he bought. There are 5 registered sex offenders, around, child sex offenders around his house. It's literally like, here's his house, and within a 3-mile radius, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I got really, really pissed off about that. It was just like, how hard would it have been for you to look that up and to take that into consideration? But he doesn't care. He doesn't have a firearm in his house. He's one of those people that thinks if you carry, you're just going to escalate the situation. He doesn't take things like that into consideration. And it does make me very, very mad to know that he takes my kids there every other weekend, and he didn't even make sure that there weren't pedophiles around.
Right, and that's fantastic. But I go, how many people actually do that?
Mm-hmm.
That you're doing it? And I want to venture to say probably less than 10% of people in this nation are actually taking that step to do that. Considering, let me look up the sex offender list before I move to this area. Or let me look up the sex offender list before I start dating this person. Or let me look up the sex offender list before I let my kids go hang out at that house with, XYZ parents there because they want to have a play date with their friends or something. It's like, I don't think that many people use it, even though it's a tool that's been out for a very long time. And I just don't think people are going to use this. And, I didn't take that into consideration. What you said was, that's a very good point. Is like, well, this will just cause domestic violence to become very underreported. It could, in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. It already is in Tennessee. There's a lot of people, they have this mindset of we deal with it in our family, and what I mean by we deal with it in our family is it's our family's problem for our family to work with, and we do not bring in other people. We do not bring in counselors. We do not bring in cops. We do not bring in pastors. We deal with it. And for you to step out of line in that regard is like a betrayal to the family. Much the way a kid might be coerced not to talk about their abusers.
Yeah, I get why Tennessee wants to do it. I get the good that could come out of it. And I think it's one of those, what are they calling it right now, where it's like one of those feel-good things. It's like, let me do this to...
It's actually, that's actually a question I was thinking about. I was actually considering asking is, so would you say this is something that feels good but doesn't actually do good?
Yeah, and there's a term that they've been using for it lately, and I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's just like, oh, let's just do this to make people feel safe, makes them feel good. Yeah, we're going to create this registry so you can be more aware. Yeah, and it's not going to do anything. But then I've always been the type of person, especially as a cop, to go, if we can do something that can save one person's life, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. If something can be done that one person benefits from it, then it's worth it. So then I go, well, how many people are going to use it? Probably not very many. Is it going to do any good? Probably not. But it could end up saving one person from being a victim of domestic violence.
Well, here's another perspective. What if a man chooses to control himself for fear of being put on the registry? Do you think it could have that consequence?
No, because if...
A douchebag's a douchebag.
Yeah, if we apply the same principle, then less people will be committing sex offenses.
I'm sure there are less people. I guarantee if we lived in a country where there was no legal consequences for it, there would be more of it. We do live in a society where there are social and legal ramifications for hedonistically acting on your sexual urges as a man or even as a woman. And
yeah, we still see people trying to pick up 12-year-olds online.
But it's not open. It's not like freaking Cambodia. Yeah. You go to Cambodia and you will see a white guy walking down the street with 3 little Cambodian girls following him about ages 10 to 12. And that guy is paying, these are little escorts. And it's one of those things that's like, yeah, a white guy can do that in Cambodia. And you want to beat them up, you want to take those girls away, but what is that going to do? He'll just go get more. But you don't see that in America. You're not going to see a guy walking around openly in broad daylight with his 12-year-old escort here. Because even if he knew he could get away with it on a legal level, society-wise, especially with the internet existing, we would destroy him. Everybody would hate him. And so you can't be open about it. So it is kept caged, but it's not destroyed. It's not extinct, but it is kept under control.
I mean, but that kind of brings up my other point, though, was like, you find this stuff out with social media and the internet nowadays. All that stuff is out all over the place, and it's easy to access that stuff. So it's just another list. And I go back to what you asked. It's like, it's just one of those feel good things. It's going to make people feel good about the fact that, we're going to register these people and we're going to know, and they're not going to get any dates or whatever because of it. I just don't see it actually doing anything.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think of those Facebook pages that are called "Are We Dating the Same Guy?" Like, you ever seen this?
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. And then I remember reading about something else. It was like at a college they made something like this. So like, if your guy cheats on you, you can register him on there. And then like, it became a huge thing because like, one of the big wigs at the college, his son got put on, and so he started trying to shut it down. It really shows that if women were willing to band together like that, it really wouldn't even be necessary for the government to have something like that. We could create like a cheating registry and all that stuff. And, here are the receipts, here's the text messages, here's, things like that. So it's not just me saying, I had all the receipts on my husband. I'd go on there. I could like post all about it. And maybe the woman he ended up marrying would see all that, see the conversations that I had. I tried to have as much conversation over text message as possible with people. And I had some text messages with some women and with, just screenshots I took off his phone, and maybe she would have read it and gone, cause I know he presented himself to her in the best way possible, and probably even convinced her that he was a victim of me, She was so manipulative or, something like that.
And that's just like the case in almost every relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Two people split, and it's like, it was her, it was him, and,
He said, she said, I said.
And I get it, it said multiple offenses, more than one domestic violence, so I guess statistically speaking, if you're going to be convicted of more than one domestic violence, it's probably on you. But I go back to like, I've arrested people for some very, I arrested this woman one time because she found out her boyfriend was cheating on her. Now this woman was like from some foreign country. One of those like drop dead gorgeous foreign women that every guy fawns over, and then this dude is like a 3 at best. And you go, how the hell did this guy land this girl, right? Anyway, that's neither here or there, but apparently he was cheating on her. And it's like, dude, you looked in the mirror, like, why? But, she finds out he was cheating on her. She confronts him when he gets home. And in doing so, throws wine she had a wine glass, threw wine in his face. He got an argument. He said something. She threw wine in his face. And in the process of throwing the wine, he did this to block the wine from hitting his face, which he hit the glass. When he did so, the glass shattered and like superficially cut his hand. Like, I'm talking very superficially.
Like a little hair.
By the time we got there, EMS had already come out. He called 911. Because he got cut by glass. They like wrapped him up, and they're like, this guy is like the biggest freaking, loser. And like, he called us out here because he got a superficial cut, and essentially he could have put a Band-Aid on it. But he made a huge deal out of it. And then stated that she threw wine in his face and his hand hit the glass and it cut him. Therefore, in Florida, the wine bottle and the wine was an extension of her hand, which is considered battery. So we had to arrest her for domestic battery. And he continued to pursue charges. And she was actually convicted of it because, well, it was a crime. And he pursued it. So now she has a domestic violence
I wonder
charge.
if he later checked himself into like a home for battered women.
It's like, yeah, but it's like, so now she has a domestic battery charge for the rest of her life. And it's like, so we're going to put her on a registry for throwing wine in her.
I mean, if she's like a gorgeous foreign woman, especially if she was like Asian, I'm pretty sure any guy who sees it would be like, I can fix her.
Yeah, but I guess, that's very loose fitting, I guess. I mean, I'd imagine that, again, if you have more than one domestic violence conviction, there's probably you need to really be reevaluating yourself. But I just go back to it. I think it's just one of those feel good pieces, that fluff pieces, I guess is the word I was looking for, that is ultimately really not going to make much of a difference. And if I'm proven wrong, like a year later, all these women come out and go, this guy was on the register and I stopped and then it turns out that there is a woman that didn't look at the registry and got beat. And we can prove that, this registry actually stopped these two women and if she would have looked, then I'll eat my words and I'll say great. But I don't see it really doing much.
So what do you think would make a difference? Because let's face it, there is a lot of domestic abuse in this area. It's one of those things that, I mean, you can tell just by how many freaking women's shelters are around here.
Yeah.
I can think of like 5 off the top of my head that are like within a reasonable driving distance of here. And it's like, this isn't a very exceedingly high populated area.
Now, outside of statistics where we're just like, you're just a douche and you're a wife beater. When we look at domestic violence statistics, and again, I have to look up the exact number, but a lot of it comes down to drugs and alcohol and mental illness. Or he's just a douche and likes to beat women. But a lot of the times that I've arrested people for domestic, it always had drug relation or alcohol, him or her got fairly drunk and beaten. So it's like, instead of just putting a registry going, look, this guy, what is the solution? I mean, I don't know. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and it probably won't be the last time I said it. If I knew the answer, I'd be getting paid to do this. But it's like, well, let's just find the root cause of domestic violence. And a lot of it comes down to drugs and alcohol dependency. Let's just say most men who are domestic abusers have alcohol or drug problems. So then we need to address that. And some women too, this will be a hot topic too, but statistically lesbian couples have more domestic violence than straight couples.
Yeah,
so
I don't know if it's 100% true, but I read that when it comes to divorce and domestic violence, it's literally lesbians, straight couples, gay men. And I thought, it's a common factor, Yeah. And that's very un-PC to say that, because it's like, you're saying it's always the women's fault. And it's like, no, but statistics are statistics. And if you see it, instead of getting upset, you should say, well, then why is this? Why is it 2 lesbians are more likely to get into a physical altercation and more likely to get divorced than a straight couple? And why is the straight couple more likely than a pair of homosexual men? And it's like, well, if you're afraid to ask that question, you'll never find the answer.
Mm-hmm. I don't know the answer. I think, digging into the root causes of domestic violence and stuff like that is big thing. The substance abuse and the destructive behaviors and I'm going to say this just because it's on my mind and I can't even pull statistics out or not, but I want to say that a lot of times you can see that pretty quickly in somebody. And I don't want to say all the time because there's con artists and stuff out there, but the possibilities for violent behavior, there's a lot of early recognitions for that.
The term you're looking for is red flags.
And sure. And especially women have, it's known, it's very well known that women have better intuition than men.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can't swear by this and I can't say for a fact, but I'm willing to believe that a lot of times, especially with women, they can see the red flags or the early recognition indicators of violence very quickly and either choose to ignore it or go back to your point of I'm going to fix him or just don't care. So will the list help? That goes back to the will the list help or what do we do about it? Well, learn to read the signs, and instead of...
I get the impression the point of the list is to keep the relationship from starting in the first place.
Right.
You're on Bumble. You have not gotten emotionally invested in anybody on here. You match up with a guy. He says, would you like to meet up for coffee? And you're like, possible. One moment. You look him up and then you realize, this guy who, was just messaging me and saying,
sure, yeah, let me get your name, date of birth before,
Yeah, I would have.
Yeah, but
been like, yeah, give
what's your first name, last name, and date of birth?
You up on a registry.
Then again, I go back to, you can do that now. Mm-hmm. You can look that up now. But okay, it's an easier tool to look up on the sex offender list and the domestic violence list to go, is this person on there? Sure, I guess. Oh yeah, and that's what I was saying before. It's like, yeah, prevent the relationship from ever starting. But that goes back to my point is, well, we're living in a time now where we're not having relationships anymore. So the women don't care, so they're not looking them up because they're not planning on being with them. They're just gonna have a good time, maybe a few times and be done. But a lot of domestic violence happens on the one night stands too, But they're not gonna look it up in them because they weren't actually gonna be in a serious relationship with them. Mm-hmm. We live in a time where these girls are meeting a guy at a bar and 30 minutes later she's having sex with him in the backseat of his car or something. And it's like, I guarantee you she wasn't thinking about no list during that time, It's like, so, I get it. I do, but I just revert back to it's a feel-good piece. If I'm wrong and it saves people from being abused, then great. I'll admit that I'm wrong, but it's just another list that won't be used.
Okay.
Well, if you feel differently or have any comments, I know that could be this is a very controversial topic. They could bring up a lot of hot topics or maybe past experiences with other people, and maybe there'll be women that would be like, oh yeah, if this XYZ person was on the list, it would have prevented me from getting beaten. So,
well, I guess the big question to ask is, how many women have looked up, or how many, not men, women, we categorize men as the abusers always. How many people have looked up somebody who they were considering dating, did a background check on them before they got serious with that person? And my two questions, one, did you have issues with it? I tried, but it was hard to understand, and I couldn't really find the websites. No one, because let's face it, it's not exactly taught in home economics how to do a.
Well, I can tell you, even when I was a cop, now obviously I couldn't use my background check systems to look people up. If I wanted to do a background check for personal reasons, I'd have to go to the same avenues as anybody else. But I've never once looked at any prospective partner through any lists.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Yeah. Well, I doubt you saw this 110-pound girl and thought, well, I want to make sure she's not a threat to me. But, have you ever looked anybody up and before you start a relationship with them did it ever make a difference? Has doing a background check ever stopped you from dating somebody? If this registry had existed, would you have used it? You know?
Right.
And so, yeah, or maybe listening to this made some people go, yeah, I should do that. Because a lot of people just don't think about it.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, very well true. I know what you think.
Okay.
Thanks.